Hey guys, and welcome to another video. So in honor of Rogue's release coming up soon, I thought I would do a fun little video to see if this will work. So we all know AI has been taking the world by storm, and I want to see if an AI can interview me in honor of my new book's release. So I'm going to try and test a few different things. So first we're going to go to the chat that I used to help me with my character Mythix. When I was in the editing process, Mythix's character changed quite a bit, and sorry that my hair is sticking up, but his character changed so much that I did chat with the AI to get a few different ideas and concepts to get my brain thinking about the sarcasm again, because I was totally blank at first. And so I'm going to use that chat based on the information that the AI remembers about Mythix and the story that I've told it, and see what kind of questions it'll come up with there. And then I'm going to test it with a new chat where it doesn't know anything and tell it vague concepts about Rogue and have it interview me. So let's get into this where I am interviewed by an AI. I'm really excited for this, y'all. I'm way too excited for this. Okay, so based on everything that we've talked about with Mythix's character and his book and story, which is called Rogue, I'm going to do a book launch video for my YouTube channel, and I want you to interview me. So you start and I'll answer the questions, and we'll just keep the interview going as long as we can. Go. This is scary. Oh my gosh. So, question one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special interview segment with the talented author behind the highly anticipated fantasy novel, Rogue. Joining us today is the one and only creator of this captivating tale, Joanna. Congratulations on your book launch, Joanna.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Let's dive right into the questions. Can you give us a brief overview of Rogue and what readers can expect from this exciting fantasy adventure?
A brief overview of Rogue is it is a fantasy adventure that takes place on a water world called Ashira, and the two main characters are two sisters, Lanessa and Linnea. Linnea is a summoning mage, which means that she can use keyring and keys to summon constructs to fight for her or do whatever she wants. That's kind of the premise of mages and magic in this world. Her sister Lanessa is a warrior, and the ruling class in this world, the ruling government, if you will, are known as the conclave mages, and so Linnea is obsessed and she really, really wants to be one. And in order to become a conclave mage, Linnea takes her and her sister on these really dangerous jobs that just goes from bad to worse. And they get into all kinds of funny situations, all kinds of dangerous situations. One day, Linnea buys a new key, and it summons a warrior. And her sister, Lanessa, begins to discover that the warrior's eyes are moving, and they seem kind of realistic. And unbeknownst to her, the warrior is trying to communicate with her using his eyes, the only way that he can. One day they're all in underground, under the water, and they find a mage tower, and inside this tower they find a mysterious black key. And together they will discover some secrets and things, and the keys may actually be the keys may actually bring about the downfall of Ashira, and it's up to them to try to stop it.
What inspired you to create the character of Mythix, and what sets him apart from other protagonists in the fantasy genre?
So that is a very good question. So for those of you who don't know Mythix, the Black Key summons this mage called Mythix, and what makes him different from other constructs in particular is that the constructs obey the person who summons them. So they move and talk and breathe and only do anything based on the orders of the person who summoned them, of their summoning mage. But no matter what Linnea tries to get him to do, he doesn't obey her. He doesn't listen to her. He does whatever he wants. He moves around on his own. He casts magic, which all constructs are different types of things. So you'll have like an axeman or a warrior or a dolphin or a mermaid or a tiger or some sort of thing. There's never been a construct summoned that is actually a mage who can cast magic. And in their world, mages don't cast magic. The mages summon creatures based on these keys and key rings and constructs. So she has no idea who this is or what he is. And readers, we get to know Mythic's character as we go through the story. And I would say what sets him apart from other protagonists in the fantasy genre is that he's a little bit antagonistic at first. So I would say he's not really an anti-hero or an antagonist, but I would say he is this blend of sarcasm with a little bit of a kind of guy who likes to tease and joke and laugh and antagonize people for fun in a lighthearted way. But he also has a lot of secrets that he's keeping buried. He's a really powerful mage, and he also is wrestling with his faith right now. He's wrestling with a lot of different things at the same time that he's also focused on a particular goal. I don't want to spoil everything about him, but he's very different in the sense that typically you get a powerful mage who is very serious or stoic or an old mentor, or you get a person who is a sarcastic main guy character who doesn't have the sensitivity, who doesn't have the deep backstory, who doesn't have the faith from the Christian aspect, who doesn't have the magic power. So it's just like this blend of things that you normally wouldn't see. Good questions.
In Rogue, you explore themes of sarcasm, humor, and magic. How did you strike a balance between these elements to create a unique and engaging reading experience?
Wow, that's a good question too. You're such a good interviewer. So I think I balanced it by the idea that I really just wanted to create this really fun adventure where the readers could just go on this little adventure with these characters, but not in a traditional sense, because a lot of times at the time I was writing this book in the fantasy genre, you have the characters and they get a something and then they go on a quest, and the quest is the adventure, or they have a reason to go on a journey, and so the adventure is like a journey or something like that. And so I wanted it to be a little bit more realistic and random, in the sense that, okay, you have to get a job and you have to do that job on a consistent basis to make money. And in this case, it's a mage job where you go to the job board, you find a job to go get an ancient artifact from somewhere, or to go deliver a package, or to guard a caravan or something like that. And by doing that, you get paid, but you do it on a consistent basis. In Linnea's case, she's doing it not just for the money, but to get in with the conclave. And so instead of one quest or one single adventure, it's a series of adventures with instead of an epic fantasy style reason where the world's in danger and you have to save it, or where there's a bad guy you have to go after and stop, or there's an artifact or object or creature that you have to go rescue, save, get, fetch, some sort of quest like that. In most fantasy books and stories, it's a real life reason. She has a job and she has to do the job, and it's an everyday occurrence basically, and that is the catalyst for what causes these little adventures that they go on. And so that was part of the balance, is making it kind of a real life almost scenario where it's similar to the modern world, but it's a fantasy story. And then when you add in the characters that go on these jobs with her, the character dynamics creates the humor and the sarcasm, because she has a sister, Lanessa, is very sarcastic with kind of a dark, more realistic sense of humor. Linnea is less sarcastic, but she more likes to joke and laugh. You have another character who likes to play pranks, and then you have another character who is extremely sarcastic and likes to antagonize people for fun. And when you throw all these personalities together, it creates the sarcasm and the humor while balancing it out with these random fantasy jobs that they have to go on where there's magic and creatures and other mages and different things like that. And then you throw in the overarching book plot line that's in there in the background, and the danger and the mystery of what's going on behind the scenes. And then you have the series plot line for the Valiant series on top of that has a connection as well. And so that's how I would say I balanced it all out.
The concept of being trapped by the magic of the key binding adds a layer of intrigue to the story. Could you share a little more about this magical aspect and how it shapes Mythic's journey?
Again, these questions are like so good. So I remember I watched Fairy Tail, which is an anime, and I was so fascinated with the idea of Lucy's magic, where she could summon celestial spirits with her keys. But I'm not big on the zodiac thing, and so for me, I didn't like that they were spirits. I didn't like that they were celestials. I didn't like that it was connected with the zodiac. And for me, Fairy Tail got a little too humorous in the sense that she would summon some of these keys and they would be completely ridiculous. And I was like, well, what if this was more serious? And what if the keys were actual people? And to me, she was also very kind and treated them well. And I was like, well, what if the keys controlled everything that they did? And what if they were more enslaved? And I took that because that's a trope, if you will, that I like to repeat and do a lot in different ways. And so I was like, well, what if the keys were real people that she didn't know were real, that they were controlled and they couldn't move or do anything without their summoner's command? And then you add in the fact that instead of celestials or zodiacs, they were people who were captured from other worlds and other planets, and they just didn't know, and there was this whole conspiracy behind all of that. And so it started off as being intrigued by Lucy from Fairy Tail, and then it branched into my own version of what I wanted, and just the intrigue behind the keys and just exploding into this new thing. And then when I created my own characters to be affected by this, the warrior Ithon, and then Mythix, the black mage, they took their own personalities and the way that they dealt with it, and the effects that happened to them, and how they let that affect their lives and stuff like that, really shaped the storyline and the plot line, and how this was going to interact and how this was going to play out in the story. And so for Mythix in particular, his backstory connects with it. I don't want to spoil too much about Mythix's character, but let's just say that the keys in particular have a very deep connection with him, and everything that he is because of this backstory, and the reason why he acts the way that he does is because of the keys and the way that the keys work.
Your book launch video is generating a lot of buzz. What was the most challenging part of creating that video, and how do you think it will resonate with your readers?
Well, first of all, I have several different videos I'm doing for the book launch, not just this one. Second of all, I wouldn't say that this has gotten a lot of buzz because I haven't shared it yet. At the time of filming this, I just came up with this idea this morning. But the most challenging part of filming this, I would say, or creating this, was me not knowing how the AI was going to respond, how you were going to respond. I didn't know if the AI was going to come up with any good questions, which you have been, so good job. But I just didn't know if the questions would even be relevant to answer for the launch and if it would resonate with the readers. But they have been. So for me, after actually doing this and answering some of the questions are detailed about Mythix, and so avoiding spoilers while answering the questions has actually been the hardest part for me, because I want to talk about Mythix, I want to talk about Ithon, but there are a lot of secrets revolving around their characters, and including especially Mythix, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't talk about him because his whole character is just meant to be kind of a mystery.
As an author, what do you hope readers will take away from Rogue and its characters? Are there any underlying messages or themes you wanted to convey?
So, for me, I hope that you take away Rogue just having a really fun adventure. I hope that you have enjoyed reading and hanging out with and going on this adventure with Linnea and Linessa, and Ithon and Mythics and these characters. I hope the characters stay with you and that you want to continue reading about their journey, and I hope that it gets you into the Valiant series as a whole, because I really just want to write good books that really entertain people, and I just want readers to read my books and just enjoy them. But the overall theme, I would say, has a heavy-handed theme about friendship and about having friends and just spending time with friends or family and making those memories and enjoying the moments that you have with somebody while you have them, and making the most of every moment, I would say, is another super important theme, which I sometimes forget because I have a lot of like anxiety and fears of the future and stuff like that. And so for me, it's important to try to remember to live in the moment, but it's kind of hard to do that sometimes. So that's what I would say is the main theme and underlying message. Along with the fact that God will be with you no matter what you go through, so he will walk through the fire with you, which is the parallel in this book is with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is the Bible story that parallels with, that Rogue parallels with, so.
Could you share a memorable moment or scene from the book that you particularly enjoyed writing or that holds special significance for you?
That is a good question. So one of my favorite moments, I would say, in the book is the scene where Linnea is once again doing a conclave job, and they're supposed to go down underwater to this underwater temple and fetch this sword called the Tooth of the Kraken. And her sister hates being underwater, and so she's waiting. She had to go down so far with her, and they have this creature that Linnea can summon called a balloon whale. And the idea behind the balloon whale is it's a big giant whale that underneath its chin it has an air bubble. And so Linessa, being that she's afraid of water, is floating or whatever, swimming in that air bubble so that she can stay as far away from the water as possible. And so she's just kind of waiting with the balloon whale outside the temple. Linnea, is just swimming down to the temple, and she grabs the tooth of the Kraken sword and pulls it out of its pedestal. Behind it was sitting this big giant statue of the Kraken, and she's like, oh, I get where the sword, that makes sense. And she pulls the sword out, and the statue cracks and comes to life, and the Kraken's just like right in front of her, about ready to eat her. And she goes, I get where the sword got its name. And after that, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say the scene after that is hilarious. Linnea's just screaming and swimming away, and the Kraken's just following behind her, and they spin right by Linessa in the balloon whale. And Linessa's just like, whale up, because she's just so terrified about it. And it's just this funny moment that my husband and I came up with. And I remember coming up with some of the weird scenarios like that, especially that one, and it was just hilarious to me. And so some of those moments are really special. Some of the weird situations they get themselves in are hilarious. I would say some of Mythics' sarcastic lines is special to me because my husband came up with them, and he is also very much based off my husband. So those hold a special place in my heart as well.
We're all eager to know, do you have any plans for future books or projects in the world of Rogue? Can we expect to see more of Mythics' adventures in the future?
Yes, of course. I'm glad you're eager to know, AI, and I hope my viewers are as well. But Rogue is Valiant Book 5, and the Valiant book series itself is 17 books. So even though the next book, Book 6, is not about Linnea, Linessa, Ithon, and Mythics, the story does continue after that. And so from here on out, for those of you who have been following along with the Valiant series and have read either Hunter, Shifter, Samurai, or Assassin at this point, you will see in Rogue the chosen characters coming together. And the next book is Book 6, which is Survivor, and that's the first one where every single chosen who has been chosen up until this point comes together for their first mission together, and they make an appearance in that book. And then we get to more complicated storylines after that. But they make an appearance in this book as well, so they do continue, and they will continue, and they will go back to having a perspective in the story and getting to tell their side of the story when all of the chosen characters come together to start the big fight for the war in the last 4 books. So stick with the series, it will come back. So this particular story does continue. It has a bonus story called Bound, which is a short story companion to Rogue, and does continue where things left off to show the immediate aftermath of what was going on. And it will be released, I'm going to try to release it a month, no more than a month after Rogue releases, so please stay tuned for that. I did that for the rest of the Valiant books because each book moves on to the next world, the next characters, and I wanted readers to have something to go back to, a story that shows what else is going on behind the scenes. And so the short story Bound does do that. And actually, in honor, if you guys have made it this far in the video, I am releasing all of the short stories on my website for free. So go to my website, I'll have a link in the description below. The short story companion to Hunter, which is called Sightless, the short story companion to Shifter, which is called Reclaimed, the short story companion to Samurai, which is called Healed, the short story companion to Assassin, which is called Victorious. They are all free on my website right now as we speak, so go grab them. They are companions to give you guys bonus content to show, to stay with these characters that you've read and hopefully fallen in love with throughout the series. And I will do the same thing with the short story for Rogue called Bound.
Lastly, do you have any advice for aspiring authors who are looking to embark on their own writing journeys?
My advice that I always give to aspiring writers or authors, is to never stop writing. Just get down, sit down, and start writing the story. Don't worry about editing. Don't worry about what people are going to think of it. Don't worry about publishing. Don't worry about how stupid it is or how silly it is or if it fits the genre or if your readers are going to like it. Just sit down and write the story the way that it's in your head. Just get it out on paper. First drafts are just meant to be you getting the story out of your head and onto the document or the paper. So I would say just write your story. That's the best advice I can give.
Thank you for taking the time to share insights into your book Rogue and your creative process. We wish you great success with your book launch and look forward to seeing what lies ahead for Mythics and your future projects.
Thank you. All right, so apparently the AI can actually interview me quite well. And in fact, this worked so well, I don't think I need to do a second one because this is a 25-minute video, y'all. So if you guys liked this video and think AIs are scary good at being good, then give this video a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday. Rogue is also for pre-order, so go down, pre-order it to go on this fantastic adventure with Mythics and Ithon and Linnea and Lanessa. You don't want to miss out on this epic adventure. And remember, all of the short companions are for free on my website right now, so I will link it'll be in the description below as well. And until then, click here to check out the trailer for Rogue in case you're interested and want to know more about it. I worked really hard on the trailers, so I really hope you guys enjoy it.